Thank you very much, and welcome to the Thought Leadership session sponsored by Fluence here. We're going to talk about leading the cannabis industry into the next decade. We're going to talk about the future of cannabis, and we're going to have a special look into the Israeli market and the Swiss market, and talk about what's happening in these markets and how we're going to move forward in coming into the next decade. We're going to talk about growing high-quality cannabis and what are some of the key success factors for growing and being successful. And I'm really, really happy to have these special guests with me today. Levin Amvig from Cannerald in Switzerland, Elad Tobi from Remy in Israel, and Timo Bongartz from Fluence Bioengineering, General Manager of Europe. So welcome, guys, and thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure being here.
So, Levin, let's start with you. Can you introduce yourself a little bit and explain what your company does and how you're doing it?
Of course. So my name is Levin Amvig. I'm from Switzerland, and we are doing, or our company, Cannerald, does medical cannabis in the end. We have 2 factories, which approximately 15,000 square meter right now. We also have quite a unique business model. Maybe we come to that in a bit when we have the chats and so on, where we were able within the last 2.5 years to collect money, because of course you always need money to grow in the cannabis space. So we were able to collect over 105 millions to grow the company and so on, which helped us a lot. And we are focused on the medical market more and more as Europe is opening up. And I'm the CEO of the company and one of the co-founders, and have a great team around me, and looking forward to the discussion we're going to have.
Yeah, and maybe talk a little bit about what your farm looks like and what kind of technology that you use.
I mean, we went vertical farming, so that's also why we are using like Fluence lighting, because with HPS lights that couldn't work out, you know. And we have like 2-tier rooms, we have like 4-tier rooms, so the people which work in the room, they have like a scissor lift, which they use to go up to the 4th tier. And it's just a factory we decided 4 years ago to go like high-end, because we thought that the cannabis market is going to be more a premium segment for the Swiss market. So we said, okay, we are going to build a high-end factory, and I believe we quite achieved that in the while. Of course, we had some problems on the way, but I believe that's always good, because it's a lesson and you learn from that.
Excellent, excellent. So going to Elad, same thing with you. Maybe a little introduction, talk about how you got into the market, into the industry, and what your company does.
Sure, thanks.
Yeah.
So my name is Elad Tobi. I come from Israel. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Remy. It's our family-owned business. We've been around for almost 15 years now, dealt with lighting ever since we started the company. And then now we only focus on lighting for plants, and that's what we do in the Israeli market and a little bit outside of the Israeli market. A lot of cannabis business and projects within the Israeli market. Very interesting market that's being established now. And yeah, that's basically what we do.
And what do you think about facilities in regards to how you would future-proof a facility to make sure that the grow stays relevant going forward?
Yeah, that's a big challenge for growers. And we're witnessing how the industry is evolving. As we speak, in these past 2-3 years, you can see the industry is upgrading the current facilities. It really started as a greenhouse market. And as time goes on, you see more and more technology being put into the greenhouses, and even more and more indoor grows coming into the market. And you see how everything is pushing the quality to be much, much better. And it's still a process, but we're really there, and it's happening, and it's actually a great experience to be part of it.
And do you see, how do you see that the farms in Israel compare to other farms that you know about around the world, especially in Europe, really? Is there a comparable, or is it a very different market?
It's hard to compare, and to be completely honest, my expertise is the Israeli market. I know some other market, my expertise is the Israeli market, but to me it's not about the comparison from other markets. It's like, what's your go-to market? Who's your target audience? How should your produce look? Are you growing flowers? Are you growing for extract? Is it medical, recreational? And so that's why when I focus on our market, and when we look at the whole market, it's a medical market, and I see how that affects the growing facilities. And that's why they put more and more tech, so they can get more consistency and things like that. So that's basically what we see there.
Excellent. So Timo, maybe an introduction and talk a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. My name is Timo Bongartz. I'm the general manager of Fluence in the EMEA region, so Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And working for Fluence, which is a horticultural lighting company, We do all different kind of crops, but a lot in cannabis as well. And yeah, I'm very happy to be on stage with Levin and Elad today.
So you've been to both facilities. You know the Swiss market. You know the Israeli market. Maybe to talk a little bit about how those two markets compare to what else you've seen in Europe?
Yeah, so I think talking first about the Israeli market, first of all, Israel in itself is a very innovative country. It's called the startup nation, so you have a lot of innovation. And this is also true for agriculture. Drip irrigation and, also cocktail tomatoes have been invented there. So there is a lot of talent. And this is also true for cannabis. So there was always research on cannabis. It was never illegal to do research, whereas in a lot of other markets, especially in Europe, also in North America, it was illegal to do even proper research on cannabis. That was not the case in Israel. So you have great talent there, and you have a strong domestic market. Over 100,000 patients in Israel. Now talking about Switzerland. Again, in a country where it stands for quality, Swiss-made, also there you have a very strong domestic market with the CBD market, a long history of cannabis. And I think this is one thing about both markets, that they have the knowledge and history about cannabis, as well as a strong domestic market. If I see now other European countries like Portugal, which is a powerhouse in cultivation, but they have no legal domestic market. So they're a little bit far away from their customers because they need to export. In these two markets, you have direct contact with the patients and customers. This, of course, helps you to understand what's really required and then maybe also prepare for export.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, excellent. So Levin, Timo's told me that you were involved in a past life in motorsports. You dipped your toe in the water in cryptocurrencies. So how do these things compare to what you're doing now? And can you take some lessons out of what you've done previously and apply them to what you're trying to accomplish now?
Definitely, I would say 100%, because in the end, I also spoke when Timo was at the factory about that with him, what could we take from, or what could I take from that to the cannabis market now? And I believe my motorsport background, I just came to cannabis because of that. I had a big accident, broke my back twice, and that's how I got into cannabis. So I'm happy that it somehow happened, because without the accident, I wouldn't be sitting here with all of you today. And I believe I learned a lot for life, and as well as for the business aspect of cannabis, how to behave, how to never give up at something. Because in racing, if you're last, you can't be oh guys, I want to go back to the hotel. That's not how it works, you know. Even though at some time you want to do that, but you can't give up. And with the cryptocurrency, we had a mining farm, so we did some crypto mining, back in the years that was 6 years ago. And also there it was if you look at the cannabis market right now with the prices we have, the same cryptocurrency happened back then, prices went up and down and up and down. And I believe right now in Switzerland we have exactly the same. The prices 2 years ago were really high, they were dropping, going back up, dropping. And I think also there we could learn a lot. But it's a very exciting market, and it's a new market as well, and that's why it's a challenge, but it's cool.
Excellent. So Elad, we understand the Israeli market is unique in a lot of ways, and how the patients get cannabis and how it's distributed through pharmacies, not dispensaries. Can you talk a little bit about that and explain how that works and how it's different than from what you understand the things to operate in Europe?
Yeah, sure. No problem. So in Israel currently, first of all, I think the first medical patients was in 1997, but then it was really private initiatives, all philanthropy. Nobody was making money. It was just people that wanted to help patients, especially PTSD and oncology, like cancer patients, and they got a special permit to grow with their own. Even the volunteers that worked there were by themselves were patients, and that's how it started. But that was a few years ago, and currently we have around 115,000 patients, which basically they got a license to use cannabis for medical usage. They get it from specific doctors that are allowed to prescribe that. And then each patient has his dose for a month. It can start, the minimum is 20 grams per month. In very, very hard cases, it can be a few hundred grams per month, but that's very hardcore. And they get it on a monthly base in a pharmacy. And you just go there, you show your license, you get your dosage. It's all, of course, documented. And yeah, but the interesting thing to see is that you see these pharmacies now popping up in Israel. And they're becoming like a half recreational pharmacy. So officially it's a pharmacy, but you're starting to see real like dispensary designs, like colors and things and giveaways. And it's like you'd find yourself in interesting situations where someone, like an old lady in front of you, is getting her monthly prescription, and then the next guy, is getting his monthly prescription, but he's taking something totally different. And there's a few hundred pharmacies around the country already that are doing that. I also know that Cookies now set up the biggest pharmacy in Israel, in the south of Israel. You should see pictures. You would not, if I showed you the picture, you would not say, hey, what a nice pharmacy. You would look at it and you would recognize a dispensary immediately. So it's like the market is evolving and changing, and we see the tension between recreational and medical, but officially everything is still medical.
And the recreational's coming, though.
That's the talk.
Yeah.
But then if you want to go into Israeli politics, it's like it's a challenge. It's been coming for a few years now, yeah, but we're keeping a close eye on it, and hopefully it will come soon.
So the infrastructure of pharmacies that was already there, they just started selling cannabis? I mean,
yeah, so
I know it wasn't that simple, but that's what we're talking about. As
Basically,
I'm familiar with it in the United States, you go to a pharmacy and you get your medication.
Yeah.
The same type of place you go to get cannabis.
So it's even more extreme. You see pharmacies that are struggling to survive and now are multi-million dollar businesses just because they started selling cannabis, and that's most of their business model now. So it saved a few of them, and now a lot of new pharmacies all over around. And before that, not so many people wanted to set up a pharmacy, but since this happened and it's become like a gold mine, so you see a lot of them coming in. And you see like relationships between growers and pharmacies trying to establish, growers that are buying pharmacies, even companies that are setting up their own pharmacies, or I don't know, I like to call it a medical dispensary or something like that, because it's something in the middle.
Yeah.
So the pharmacy business is
if you come in to set up a pharmacy, you can sell cannabis, but can you also dispense medication?
Oh, yeah.
So it works both ways.
But it's not that you can sell cannabis. Not any pharmacy can sell cannabis.
Okay.
They need a special license. They're limited in the amount of kilos they can hold. They have a special safe for that. They have special security for that. So they do have to go through a process to get that permit. But you'll see the pharmacies, they'll sell regular medication, and they usually have at least one or two pharmacists that had a special training that are allowed to give cannabis.
Yeah.
And then whenever a cannabis patient comes, they're the one that'll take care of him. But near him, they'll give him like a regular medicine.
Wow. And Levin, just coming back to you real quick, Timo, I'll get back to you in a second. Can you talk about how it's distributed in Switzerland and how that differs from what goes on in Israel, just to demonstrate that it's going through different channels in different countries?
We are still behind. I mean, if we compare it to Israel, we are still a step behind. So a patient can't go, as of right now, to the pharmacy, like in Israel, and be like, look, I get now, because of my doctor told me to get 20 grams of flowers. That's not how it's working right now. We are on the way there, so we are also a step behind Germany, because in Germany you also can go to the pharmacy, get your flowers, and our government decided to go for a study project. I believe that's a typical Swiss thing, to do. They don't just do something, they want to have to study the data and everything, and years of studying the things, and that's what's happening right now. So last year the government started a research project over the next 5 years. They're going to hand out in coffee shops to 200 patients per place. So in our capital city, they have 200 people. In another city, they have 200 people. And they get cannabis over a period of 5 years. Each month, 20 grams. And after that, they are going to decide. So we can't supply the Swiss market with that, because it's just too small and it's going to still take a while. So that's why we are focusing on Germany and the other markets, because they are opening up quicker than Switzerland.
And so most of what you produce is exported.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So you have to also deal with other regulations in other countries as well.
Oh yeah, and the custom and the other governments. So it's a lot of documentation, a lot of papers to fill out. But in the end, it's definitely worth it, because the patients, I believe, are grateful to get something else, and that's why all it matters in the end.
Excellent. And Timo, you've seen how it works in all of Europe, as you have customers all over the continent, but can you talk a little bit about Germany specifically and how it compares to Switzerland and what we heard about Israel?
Yeah, it's interesting if you travel and being in the different countries and you ask, okay, what is your goal? Where do you want to bring your cannabis? I would say in most cases, everyone want to hit the German market. So that is really something interesting. When talking about the German market today, it's a pure medical market with 200,000 patients, and there as well you get it prescribed from a doctor, and then for serious indications, and then you can go to a pharmacy and get it in a pharmacy where you buy all other medications as well. The interesting thing about Germany, it's a relatively long established medical market, which has been supplied mainly by the Netherlands and now opened up to a lot of different countries now supplying the German medical market. Now, a new government got into power, and they agreed to legalize recreational cannabis, which is a huge thing, because in the moment the government is legalizing recreational cannabis, it becomes the biggest federal legal cannabis market in the world. And that is huge for Europe because it has an effect also to the other European countries, because there is, the Germans are famous for being more traditional conservative, but if they do the move, others feel like empowered to do it as well. So yeah, right now the government is in the process of preparing the law to put it in front of the parliament by end of the year. So we are expecting that the first recreational cannabis can be bought beginning of 2024. And then it's an very interesting market.
Exciting.
Right, it really changes the demand landscape quite a bit, huh?
Drastically.
Yeah.
Drastically. Germany has a high cannabis consumption from the illegal market, and I think this we learned from other markets which legalized. It's really important to have immediately enough supply, enough diversity of product. Right now, consumers are used to select between different strains, different CBD and THC contents and other cannabinoids, and you need to offer that to really push out the illegal market, because the government has the goal to ensure consumer safety, and this you only get if you have a serious supply.
Excellent. So staying with you, what do you see really over the next 5 or 10 years? I mean, Germany obviously going rec is going to be a game-changing event in Europe, but how do you see the market evolving over the next decade or so?
Yeah, so it's difficult to predict, of course, but what we saw in other markets, where you used to have a medical market and then it got into a recreational market, you see that the medical market started to plateau and even decrease, and the recreational market picked up. So that's what we would expect in Germany. We also expect that other European countries are opening up. It will be very interesting from a German market perspective where the supply is coming from, because right now under UN law, it's illegal to export and import cannabis for recreational purposes. So there is some policy making required, because to grow all the cannabis for Germany in Germany is totally unrealistic. But yeah, talking about the next 5 to 10 years, we are expecting a big legalization wave, and we are expecting different customer demands, different customer types, so a rich ecosystem where I think we all hope to be part of. And it's exciting to be at the start of a bigger wave and to pave it a little bit and to contribute in some way. So exciting.
Excellent. And Elad, in Israel, if you were to look over the next 10 years, how do you see it developing?
Well, currently in Israel, there's a few things. So first of all, I would say the vast majority of farms we work with, in their business plan, they're looking at the German market, or they're looking at legalization in Israel. That's basically like the vision in the business plan. But currently in Israel, you can only buy it legally in two ways, either a flower or a tincture like oils. That's the only way the doctors prescribe it, and that's the only way it's available. No extract, no rosin, resin, all these things. So one thing that I think and I hope that will change as we move along is that there'll be different ways that people can consume it. Maybe, I don't know, but for different, like not only two ways that it's a little bit limited, or especially compared to what we see in the States and things like that. On the other hand, now that it's a medical market, so it's very much quality driven, or it's becoming more and more quality driven because the yearly consistency of the produce is super important. As Levin mentioned, he has a personal connection to this plant, and we also have our own. My mother is a medical patient. She has arthritis. This plant changed her life from a morphine patch to taking a tincture 3 times a day, and it really changed the whole thing. But she finds it very hard to find consistent flowers. And for her, if she bought the bag of cannabis and it's not what she was expecting, she can replace it. So it's super critical for her to have a uniform, yearly, consistent crop. So what I see in the next years, what's happening now, and I think that's the momentum that's going on, is that the quality is coming up. Consistency is becoming a huge issue for growers. And then I think that also aligns with the whole long-term strategy of going to places like Germany, which from what I feel, it will be also like a quality market because everybody's looking at Germany. So either you have huge scale and you can win our price, or you have very, very good product, and that's the way you can go into that market. So that's what I said before. We see more and more tech going into greenhouses, more high-end indoor facilities, similar style to what Levin has, multi-layer, double stack, all these things. I didn't see any quadruple stack yet, but I saw the double stacks. Yeah, and that's how I think it's going to go for the next 5 years.
Excellent. Levin, in terms of Switzerland, in your view, I mean, a little bit smaller of a market than Germany, but if you were to say what you think is going to happen over the next decade or so, where do you see things going and changing?
I believe like in our country, the biggest step is going to be like the quality aspect, so that more and more people will have a look at the quality, because I feel a bit like it's the same that happened probably over in Canada a couple of years ago when the legalization came, you know, when the quality at the beginning was good and then they produced more and more, and suddenly there was just the quality was not good enough anymore, and the people were complaining about it. And I think that's going to be a big thing in our country, that our country has like, we spoke about that yesterday a bit briefly, like when we have to pay salaries, it's a lot more than in Germany, other countries. We have a different kind of rent costs, and just overall, if you live in Switzerland, it's expensive. It's not a cheap country. And that's why Switzerland will probably be like a premium place for cannabis, because we cannot compete with Colombia or Latin America or Africa. That's never going to work out. Yeah. And I believe alone with that, we already know where our country will be placed in the cannabis space. It's either premium quality with Swiss made on it, like with the watches and other things, you know, we all know, or it's going to be more research and like development, R&D, these kind of things. I believe that's more and more going to come. And I don't believe there are going to be like in Canada, the huge Canadian factory is going to come out of the ground. I don't think that's going to happen.
Wow, you get very different perspectives of different markets. So, I mean, the last question I want to put to each of you is, you know, from your view and your knowledge of either your own operation or your customers, or Timo, in your case, our customers, you know, what's it going to take to survive here? How can a company that's operating today ensure that they're still around in the next 10 years and active in this market? And I'll start with you, Timo, if you don't mind.
No, let's start. You know, when seeing different operations, it's interesting that very often growers start, who are their customers, what is their route to market, and so on. So they have always their patient or the consumer in mind, and then everything is, you know, set up to fulfill this this demand and this requirement. But we also see very often that growers are set up a grow facility, wanted a lot of technology, but if you ask, okay, who is your customer, they don't know yet. And this is not cannabis specific, but for all business, this is a challenge. So I think for to be, you know, set up for the future and being successful is being as close to the customer and the legal requirements, because these are the two things which will change, and you need, or the growers need to have the setup to adopt, to always fulfill these, to delight their customers. And this goes down to the genetics. We see in Switzerland, I experienced that because they grow a lot of CBD flower, that all of a sudden a lot grows the same genetic, and you have a massive oversupply of this one. No one wants to buy it anymore, and you sit on this inventory. So at the end, it comes down to have the flexibility to adjust, and don't offer what everyone else is offering. It's coming down to true value propositions you need to develop, and all technology and so on comes to fulfill that. But as we work for an LED company, that is something what we also see, having your operational spendings under control, bringing down this, because the compression is starting for the growers, so you need to have your OPEX under control. So I think there's a couple of things, but exciting times ahead.
Excellent. What about you, Elad?
He took most of my answer.
Yeah.
So, no, but I'll add a few things. So first of all, obviously karma and a little bit of luck should be in there, because it's really, it's an evolving industry and it's going up and down and all around, and I think that's also a global thing. But I would strengthen what Timo said. It's really the ability to know how to listen to your customer and your go-to-market, and really understanding what they want. And basically what I see in our market is like building your brand. I don't think that's anything special for cannabis, but I do know and I do see on social media what happens when a bad batch is released to the market. And then like a grower can be, what we say, burnt in Israel, and that's it. Nobody wants to take the chance, because you got that one chance to buy it once a month, and if you missed on that, that's it, you're stuck for a month. So it'll really be like being very transparent with your clients, making that following, people that will want your brand because they trust the brand, they know what they're going to get inside. And one last point is, I think, also similar to other markets, you will either have to be very big so you can compete on price, or very, very, very high quality, so people will just, I know the price, but I know what I'm going to get, and that's what I'll need. So I think that's the way to survive, at least in our market.
Excellent.
Can I?
Yeah, absolutely.
What I found also interesting in Israel, because in the past there was a lot of greenhouse-grown cannabis, not lit in or properly lit in winter times, so you didn't have a consistent product throughout the year. You told about your personal story in your family, but what it led to, that all of a sudden a lot of supply got in from Canada, fulfilling this need for consistent product, although you have great growers in Israel. So this demand has been fulfilled by someone else.
Yeah.
So this is a great example how to get disrupted or having issues if you don't see that is what the customer expects. Either you match it or
you die.
I totally agree. Like last year, around 50% of there was like 40 tons, around 40 tons, 38 I think, sold in Israel in 2021. More than 50% of it was import, and the import is sold at the highest price tag in the country. It will go between.
Oh wow.
I just today I got a message from. Oh, by the way, the pharmacies send you on WhatsApp a daily menu with over 100 strains that you can choose from, including special sales for that day. So just yesterday I got a special deal for like just under €3 per gram for a very basic cannabis, but still the most sold category is the highest price tag, which would go for closer to €10 per gram. So basically the market is showing us that they're willing, and they're taking the import because it says indoor and it says it's coming from Canada, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best quality. Sometimes you can find local grown that is better quality, but still the market is showing us we're willing to pay the high price tag if it'll mean quality and consistency. So that's a lot of what I say is coming from that.
Yeah. And Levin, as a grower yourself, how do you see the kind of key pillars to success going into the future?
I mean, the two gentlemen on the left side of me almost answered pretty much anything already. But I want to mention again, like for me personally, or that's what we pretty much see is like the branding aspect. Because we did that with we tried to build up like a community around our brand, like some US companies did it. And we saw that like when we released an online product, like a new CBD oil or new flowers, and we could give it out to like 150 people in our community channels. It was just like boom, and we got thousands of orders within a couple of days, which is great. But that has just to do with the branding aspect, and I believe like branding is the most important thing. It's like, why do people buy a shirt with a brand on it? It's because they live the brand, they want to feel the brand, they want to be with the company. And I think that that will be definitely one of the biggest things to take care of, that you have a good branding aspect. Because even though, as Timo said before, if you have a good product, you know, and even though you're a top grower and you have great flowers, but nobody knows your flowers, nobody knows your company, who's going to buy it?
Yeah. No,
Who's
that's a really good point. That's a really good point.
If I may step in and
Yeah,
just
please.
add to something that Levin, and you know, I've been following Caneralt for some time now, and hopefully within a month or two I'll get the chance to physically see that wonder. But I think, like what you, at least from my point of view, what you guys are doing, first of all from the quality perspective, but secondly from really engaging with the target audience, with the whole special business model that you have. I think that's like one of the best examples that I've seen to create a real following and like involvement in the company. I would imagine that this, if you want to expand on the business model, so I would imagine someone that does that for you guys as a potential client or investor or whatever really feels connected to the company. And the way I see it, I look at it as an example for like that'll mean these people will be with us for the long road. So.
Well, of course, and it's important that you get the people to be with you, because in the end, also that's the most important thing in the medical market. The customer at the end wants a good product. The customer does not want to have like a cheap product, you know, where the quality is not good. And I believe if you give the customer a great product, you have a great branding, you can take the customer with you all the way. And it's all about that. And then it's a win-win situation for everybody, which is great.
Amazing.
That's great feedback, guys. I mean, those are really all the questions I had. I think if we'd see if anybody in the audience has any questions. Yep.
Hello, everybody. I got a question because we talk about visions, and we talk about growing based to the energy. Like we're still using too much energy without knowledge. Because your company, without that energy, you cannot grow your company. I'm still listened and I'm still informated, but that industry, cannabis industry, is look like you still consume the energy from the sun. What is your expectation from your vision to the sun? Because we still using too much energy and we don't have plan how rules that sun. Because you, me, any of us use it one piece of this energy and that come from to the sun. My question is, what do you think about that energy we come from, we pick up to the sun?
I can take
That's my question.
Let's go with Elad.
Yeah, I come from a sunny country. And it's actually a very relevant and question that's even close to heart to me, because we do use a lot of energy to grow this cannabis. And especially in Israel, a Mediterranean country, we get like, I don't know, 300 sunny days a year. And that's why the industry started with greenhouses, to use the power of the Israeli sun, which is actually amazing. We get 60 DLIs for free, like in the summer, which is crazy, very high intensity lighting. But that's why we talk about the go-to market, because for a recreational grower, that's one thing and that'll be okay. But if I'm growing a product that's supposed to help someone's pain or disease or give him some kind of physical relief or mental relief, it's very, very important that he can use the product in the winter and get the same relief that if he used it in May or in December. He needs to know that when he comes, when the time for his prescription to be renewed got there, and he can go and get his medicine, he knows what he's going to get, and it's going to give him an effect that's super critical. Now, I'm making a very important distinction between a go-to market, which is a medical application, and a go-to market, which is recreational. If you just want to get high and relax a little bit, which is also a very good idea, it's okay if it differs a little bit within the year. But if it's affecting your pain in a different way, for me, that's not acceptable. Now, how do we use the energy of the sun? So there's a few ways. Obviously, the obvious way is if it's a complete indoor, they can build a solar system on the top of the roof and then use that energy. But that, just so we're all being realistic, that won't cover the whole energy consumption of a very big facility. What we do see is like hybrid installations, so greenhouses, and we have actually our biggest project in Israel is a 3-hectare greenhouse that uses, first of all, a very high-quality greenhouse cover that has very good transmittance factors, and it also passes UV light and things like that. But for them to reach the consistency so they can address their medical market, they added lighting, and they supplement the light with the energy and electricity it needs in a different way throughout the year. So in the summer, it might not even be used, but during the winter, it helps them make a consistent crop so their clients can get their same medicine every month. So that's from my perspective.
Yeah,
And
maybe.
Timo?
Yeah, I think generally we need to consume less to come to sustainable business practices. That is true. But if we talk about growing in general, and we see it not only in cannabis, but also for food crops and so on, we're seeing more and more growers becoming also like an energy company. So they produce their own energy, being more decentralized, having more decentralized setups where you produce your energy and consume your energy, and then the footprint, your CO2 footprint, is dramatically different as when you, as an example, being in South Africa, which has beautiful sun, but if you use energy, it mostly produced out of coal. South Africa is run on coal. Poland, as an example, is run on coal. So if you use this energy, it's maybe relatively dirty energy. So I think the question is how you produce the energy, and if you can decentralize it and make it with that more resilient, then it also becomes from a carbon point of view more smart. I think that this trend we will see over the next year, that growing facilities become also energy providers and being smart on energy.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Levin, you want to add anything to that?
No, they pretty much said anything, but also the solar part is also a thing we get asked a lot at our factory, like why do you not have a solar panel roof and so on, but in the end, in our regards, it would be like 0.05 to 8%, which is just like a drop on the hot stone. Yeah. I mean, we are using like 6 megawatts all around the time, which is insane. You could be like heating 30, 40,000 households in winter with that. But I completely agree with what Timo said with the quality, or in regards to the quality, or also what you said, like that the patient or the end customer, he wants if he is sick or I'm sick and I want to get my medicine, I want to get a good medicine. I don't want to have a medicine which is like, sometimes it's great and then in winter it's bad again. So I believe like as far as there is nothing you like new energy resources coming up, I don't see a big change coming, because the customer, in my opinion, or as far as we know, will always put like quality above all the rest. That's what we see from our customers in the end.
Excellent.
So it's quite difficult to...
It's a really good question. Anybody else have any questions? Going once? All right. Well, I'd like to thank our guests here.
Thank you.
It was a great conversation, and thank you everybody for attending. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thanks, guys.